Okay, I think it says we're live, which is hopefully all working over on the channel. If anyone's currently in the chat, please do say hello so we know you're there. And hopefully in just a few minutes we'll be able to get cracking. But yeah, please do give us a wave in the YouTube chat if anyone's around. Okay, brilliant. Okay, I've got a message from a friend saying we're live and we're ready to go. So hello everyone. We are currently doing Mini Airshow 6 online because of current world issues. I guess we're not going to be gathering in a field as we normally do and having lots of fun, which is a terrible shame, but what can you do? Unfortunately, that's just the situation we're in, but that's not going to stop us having lots of fun anyway. So we're going to have a chat today with a few people. My name's NJ. Thank you so much for everyone that's showed up and come across to say hello. We've got lots of exciting guests here to chat to for the next hour. With me, of course, you probably recognize this face. We have Greg from Menace RC. Greg, how on earth are you? Feels like I think the last time we hooked up was probably the last Mini Air Show, wasn't it? So it's been a while. Yeah, how's it all going?
Yeah, doing very well, thank you. Very well. Enjoying a bit of the outdoors at the moment.
Yeah, so remind me whereabouts you are in the world now.
Oh yeah, last summer we moved over to France in the Dordogne Valley.
Right.
So yeah, it was a move just for our family and that, and yeah, absolutely loving it out here. But yeah, it's good.
Fantastic. So you've moved the secret development bunker out to the to the French side, and I can see you've got absolutely horrible weather out there by the looks of the beaming sun coming through your window.
Oh, it's terrible. I won't say how hot it is right now, but yeah, it's warm, very warm.
Yeah, I bet it is. I bet it is. So yeah, the plan is today we're going to go through we've got a few questions here. We're going to try and keep this very Mini Air Show focused. Obviously, I think you've been to all of them, haven't you, Greg? Pretty much.
Yeah, been to pretty much all of them. I think last year I didn't quite make it because we had some issues, but yeah, pretty much all the others I've been to.
Yeah, that's right. I remember obviously one of the nice things about being at the show itself, apart from seeing everyone's face, is being able to walk around all of the stands of people like Greg and fondle all the wonderful new goodies. I don't think I've ever been to one of your stands and not walked away with a bunch of new stuff because as we all know, your stuff's fantastic, and we'll get on to what you've been up to in your secret bunker. Cool. First of all, so some of the questions we've got here that I've been asked to ask you, which I've got some great questions. Let's start off with digital, because obviously it's a pretty potent topic these days. It has been for a while and developing at just the speed of light, as we know. Yeah. How do you think the digital revolution is going to change FPV in terms of RF?
Okay, so I think it's brilliant that we've got digital now, because obviously you get a much clearer signal through to the goggles. But in terms of the hobby, in terms of how it's been accepted, and my view on it as well, is that I think we're going to see both the analog and the digital together in the hobby for a while. When I say a while, it's going to be a couple of years, maybe a bit longer. The reason I believe that is because currently we've got this the DJI system, which is a pretty damn good system, but also we've got people who buy this system, and it is quite expensive as an initial outlay, whereas we've already got the legacy, the historical analog stuff. So I feel that the analog stuff is where people can come in. Entry level is going to be on analog, and then they'll progress up to digital. Currently, in the current climate, But saying all that, things could change because we've got this new fat shark shark bite or bite frost, is it?
Bite frost, yeah.
Yeah, which does look very good for racing and things like that. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on that and trying that out.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting one. I mean, I've got the obviously I've had in my sort of 7 years of doing it, the analog, lots and lots of different analog goggles, including many fat sharks. But then as of last year, end of last year, I went to the DJI system, and to be honest with you, I paused on it just because it was one of those things where it wasn't that great. There was a lot of problems with it, and there were a lot of things, like holes that were missing in terms of things that racers and freestyle pilots needed. So they've developed it into something great, but I guess the biggest issue is that thing of latency, isn't it? It's still maybe not quite there compared to the analog stuff. So certainly, I think that may be another reason why it's not going to be analog won't be going anywhere for a while yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I think analog's going to be around for quite a while. Yeah.
Okay, let's crack on with some other questions. Thanks for that. Okay, so how do you view the other FPV frequencies in terms of practicality, i.e. sort of 1.3 and 2.4?
Okay, so yeah, well, as we all know, predominantly within the hobby, we're on the 5.8 gigahertz. If we go down to 2.4, we go down to 1.3, we're going down in frequency, which means the wavelength comes up. So that means the antennas get bigger. So really, from a practicality point of view, it depends on what your model is and what you're wanting to achieve with it. Then, so if you've got a very small, tiny quad, you're not really going to get away from the 5.8 gigahertz. But if you've got larger quads, wings, things like that, if you're doing wings and you want to do long range flying and things like that, then 2.4 gigahertz, 1.3 gigahertz is going to be ideal for that. But yeah, practicality is size of the model. If your model can take it, then yeah, you've got the options of the lower frequencies.
Absolutely, and of course those longer wavelengths, lower frequencies are great at bending around and penetrating objects and what have you, where these shorter ones aren't so good. But yeah, what can we do? That's very well put. With Betaflight now supporting return to home mode, more people are adding GPS to quads. Is there anything we can do to shield them from RF or EMF interference? That's a good one.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, when going way back, we used to build sort of APM models and things like that with GPS and video transmitting antennas on them. As far as shielding goes, really, you don't want to shield your antennas because you want those antennas to transmit or receive the signal as best possible, especially your GPS location. So the main bit of advice I could give is, and it's pretty standard out there as well, is get your GPS module and your video antenna as far apart as possible. So it's physical separation on the model. That's what you're aiming for. So if you've got a wing, put one over one side and one over the other side of the wings, and you've got it. It gets a bit more difficult on a quad, but I would imagine if you're putting GPS onto a quad, you're going to have a bigger quad. It's not going to be a small, 3-inch, 4-inch style quad. So you hopefully you have the space to get that separation.
Yeah, I did. It's funny you should say that. I did actually. I'm looking at it now. I did build a little 3-inch with the GPS, and surprisingly, it did work all right. But obviously, there is that problem, and again, that's always in the back of my head. Everything's shouting in the ear of everything else when it's on a 3-inch quad.
Yeah.
So you're kind of, I'll wait for at least like 9 satellites before I take off, because I just know there's every chance it'll suddenly forget what it is with all that noise going on.
Yeah.
So let's crack on. AKK have a new dual antenna VTX. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so I think this the VTX where they're claiming that it will transmit left hand and right hand signals at the same time. So I'm not 100% familiar with it, but I'm assuming that it will be sending the left hand and the right hand on the same frequency. So they're not on different frequencies. So, I mean, I don't know if they've done anything special within that VTX, but if you transmit a left-hand signal and a right-hand signal on the same frequency, and you will end up with reflections in all sorts of noise going on, especially in an indoor environment, because as you're aware, if you've got, say, a right-hand signal being transmitted, every time that bounces off a wall, that turns into
reflects and reverses, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're putting left and right into this room, and then they're all going to reflect from right to left and left to right. It's going to be a right mess of frequencies.
Yeah.
So
sounds like a lot of cancellation with
yeah,
that's interesting. So maybe they do it, but why would it be less of an issue, do you think, to be on different frequencies if one was on one and one was the other?
If you're on two different frequencies, then it's just the same as your friend being on a different frequency. But I really don't understand why you would, because your receiving gear can only receive one frequency normally.
Yeah.
But yeah, wow. It's a bit of a weird one.
I honestly wish, because we're quite tight for time. We got a lot to get through in the hour, but I just like Greg and I could probably do this for a solid hour. So maybe I can convince Greg to come back at another time, and we just spend an hour talking about all this stuff, because it's so fascinating for me as well, as I'm sure it is for you guys. Let's move on. There was a couple of other viewer questions. I've been one by Robin FPV. I have enjoyed being blinded by the Menace LEDs, but they seem in short supply. Any plans for any more or similar products in the pipeline?
Yeah, absolutely. The LED product was we launched it. The manufacturer of the LED strips changed the spec of the LED strips, so we're working on a version 2 which will work with the new LED strips. They're even a little bit more brighter than the first ones. So
fantastic. Yeah, no, I remember just how bright those things are. Well, I definitely look forward to seeing those. Keep me posted. Cool. Let's see, we've got another one here, one from our beloved Andrew, or Frank to anyone from the LDO crew. Have you ever been sim racing? If not, why not?
Oh, right. Okay. Sim racing. I've not actually competed sim racing. I've flown sims, and whilst I get on okay with them, I absolutely prefer to be outside flying. I'm not really a sort of a gamer type person. I don't play games on laptops and things. I don't even own a PlayStation or an Xbox or anything like that. So yeah, I just prefer to chuck it all in a bag, get outside, get in the fresh air, and just enjoy it outside.
Well, it sounds like you're well situated now for doing that, and I think most of us would pick that over being in the simulator. Well, I say that. It's a funny thing, isn't it, Sims? I know some people that are just absolutely incredible at it. I think for me, as freestyle's really my thing. I'm just not. Yeah, I'm not very good at it. There'll be some 6-year-old will pick it up and absolutely destroy me in a race. So I just get upset, and then I want to go outside and fly. Right, let's I think we can probably is there anything else that you wanted to sort of cover? Any other new bits and pieces is there any secret stuff you want to tell us about? You know, feel free to drop any exclusives here. I'm fine with that.
Secrets. Yeah, we're working on new stuff. We've just launched a set of antennas to go with the DJI system. We've done the first batch. They sold out in a couple of days. Absolutely phenomenal. So we've just got our second batch in, and they're up live on the website. There's also some videos showing comparison with the stock antennas and our antennas. So if anyone wants to have a look, go check it out. We've also got some new antennas in the pipeline. We've got some small drone antennas. We've got some new receiving antennas, and I'm working on something that, if I can pull it off, it would be a whole different way of using an antenna on your goggle. But anyway, that's something for way in the future. But there you go. There's a little.
That sounds like something I need to know about yesterday. Well, I'll keep a close eye on the Menace RC news page and just pester you whenever I can to find out more. That sounds brilliant. Okay, thanks for that, Greg. Sorry, it was a bit of a quick fire thing, but I think we got some really good information there. That was
really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So what we'll do, we'll keep you around, and we're going to do this Graham Norton style here. We're just going to keep adding people to the couch. So I'm going to bring in now
Cool.
Bloods. Hello, Bloods. How are you doing? Oh, I think you might be muted.
Yeah, sorry, I turned my mic off. Yeah. Good, thanks, man.
Excellent. So everyone, this is Bloods, so who I have obviously an excellent working relationship with, because we've designed a few bits together. But this is Bloods from Halo RC. And of course, not just someone who makes fantastic, amazing quad frames right here in the UK, but also you've got your own racing team as well. You're getting quite into your racing over the last couple of years, haven't you?
Well, yeah, definitely over the last year, 2 years really. I mean, personally, I've been flying for about 4.5 years now, but then 2 years ago, kind of just started trying to actually put a quad round a track and competitively. It's a lot harder than it looks, and especially when you're going up to people that have got, like, I don't know, I feel really old, but they're like 20 years younger than you. Yeah, I've got a lot more of
preaching to the choir here. I think you're probably the youngest of the three of us, I'm gonna guess.
I'll take that. So yeah, I wouldn't go as far as to say I've got a team like a DCL team, but yeah, good bunch of guys that all fly my frames and test my frames and race competitively. So yeah, it's good fun.
This is just the British thing, is to downsell yourself, isn't it? You've got to be more gun ho. You've got to say, yeah, we've got a team, we've got a pit crew.
Actually, yeah, we were going to be in the Drone Champions League this year, but because of coronavirus, it all got called off. So, and can't do it next year for some reason.
Yeah, it's a bit of a thing right now. But what can we do? So, I've got some questions here for you, Blood. So we'll fire through these hopefully within the next 15. So, first question is, what do you fly yourself?
Oh, I rarely fly anything that I actually am currently selling. I'm always flying prototypes because I'm always working on the next frame. Usually start working on the next frame before I've even released the one that I finished. So usually I'm flying prototypes. Obviously, if I'm racing, I'm flying as lightweight race frame as possible, 5-inch. And if I'm freestyling, then I go full size, battery on top, Hero 8, 800 gram monster. I love throwing around big chunk of weight like that. Especially when you get the setup right, it handles it nicely. Maybe in terms of analog and digital, I'm actually flying both still, because as much as I love the DJI stuff, number one reason for flying analog still is because in the UK the race organizers didn't really bother figuring out how to use DJI for racing, so they just decided to say, right, no DJI, analog only. So all my DJI gear had to go to one side, and I had to build new analog race quads and get back into flying analog again. But now with the coronavirus thing, it's kind of didn't really need to do that after all, because there isn't going to be a race season to speak of. So I've actually gone back to DJI now. It's hard not to go back to DJI. But
you had the funny in between thing, didn't you? Because you had the Bite Frost, which was something Greg and I were chatting about briefly earlier.
Yeah. Still got the Bifrost system. The new one, yeah, it looks basically exactly the same as the old one, really. The picture quality doesn't really even compare to DJI, but the guy at Fat Shark has openly said that he's not trying to beat DJI, he just wants to beat analog. And yeah, by the looks of things, it definitely beats some analog setups. I'd definitely say that some analog setups look way better than from what I've seen so far. But again, it's all just YouTube compressed stuff. So until I actually get it in my hands and get to try it, won't really know the quality. But going on my experience with the Bifrost thing, I mean, it as much as they like to say that it works with any goggles with HDMI, it only works with HDO2s properly, as it was designed to be used. They're the only real goggles. They're the only goggles that Fat Shark will have bothered testing it with, and to get it to work with, because they're kind of designed for it, because they got the widescreen. So having to buy HDO2s and the new thing to try it, yeah, I can't see me doing it, really. I get better analog feed through my DJI goggles than I do with my HDO ones. So yeah, it's a shame. But as soon as DJI came in and kind of showed the industry what could be done, it's definitely put Fat Shark to shame a bit. And hopefully,
I think these things, it's always good to have these things come along and at least shake the industry up a bit and get people thinking in different directions. So I never see these things, and often, hey, look, the people who at the other end that are going to go out and fly this stuff end up being the winners, really, when these companies start fighting it out. So
and it's definitely made him up his game, like, if nothing else. So, and like Greg said earlier, it does look like it might be better for racing. Not sure though. It all depends on the race organizers. It's not the hardware. It seems it's more down to the race organizers making it work.
That's a good point. Let's just crack on with a few other questions because I'm a little time conscious here. So the other one we've got, where's your questions? How do you think that, while we're on the subject of digital, how do you think the digital revolution is going to change frames?
It's definitely changed them a lot. A lot of companies have already designed frames just for DJI systems. I released a brand new race frame and a new freestyle frame. I was just finishing them up just as DJI came out. So I wasn't going to quickly change them to make them work with DJI. But I was really lucky that both of them fit. I managed to get the air unit to fit in both the race and my freestyle frame pretty easily. A couple of different methods for doing that. And then later the Vista came out, which kind of made it so that you could fit DJI in pretty much any frame, really. If you can't fit that Vista in, you've got a problem.
And in fact, you've done so on one of our little frame design, the guitar pick. You've managed to stick a Vista on that, which I thought was crazy, but then it turned into being a little monster, didn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I love that little thing.
See, I knew this was going to happen. You see, when we first decided we were going to build this frame that was going to be ultralight, under 100 grams, the super ultralight thing that would also perform wonderfully. I just knew in the back of my head, at some point, Chris is going to find the most powerful motors and setup he possibly could on the highest S.
I know,
and then turn it into a little monster. But
it's funny. The one that I built was just on 1206 motors, and it just seemed to handle it really well. I've got in the pipeline, definitely need to show you the plans for the guitar pick V2.
V2. Oh, what have we just dropped here? all these exclusives and information. It's all going off here today. I'm loving it. So, what made you want to start making your own frames? What was the thing that what was that one thing that made you think, right, that's it? Let's get the CAD software out and let's get on the design.
Well, I think Well, I think I'd be right in saying that the number one thing was you, actually.
Oh,
You're one of the main reasons for me actually doing it, because I was definitely on the fence. So yeah, it was probably 3 years ago. I was just in the hobby like anybody else, flying drones, putting up videos, trying to get noticed to get a sponsor and get some free stuff and all that. And then finally, somebody was interested in, I won't say any names, but someone was interested in sponsoring me. But by that time, I had already started messing around with 3D printing and that, and thought, oh, actually, I could actually design my own frame. Started messing around with designing my own frame. So I was like, yeah, you could sponsor me and you could release my frame under your brand. And, you know, I'll take a little cut on every frame that you sell. And as soon as I said that, they were like, no, I won't be able to give you a cut on any of the frames. I'll give you a couple of frames for free. But yeah, that's basically it. And I was like, yeah, that's not a very good deal, is it?
Had you done much CAD design work before? Do you have a history with working with any CAD software? I was going to actually ask you that as well, Greg. Do you have a CAD guy, or did you just learn to do all the CAD design stuff you needed yourself?
My background's electronics, and
right.
we CAD years ago. Even in my apprenticeship, we were using computer-aided design even before it is what it is now. Before we got to 3D, so very proficient at 2D design, but 3D and simulation software and everything. So yeah.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that's something I keep thinking I must try and get into, because you have these ideas and they come and go so quick. It would be good to just start learning that. And I know there's lots of great ones out there. I think I started with the baby one. I did have a go at Tinkercad. Don't laugh at me, but it is actually quite useful. I'll tell you what I used it for was when I started 3D printing. It was taking 3D printed designs from Thingiverse and then wanting to tweak them slightly. It was very good for that. So it's a nice little entry thing, but obviously I need to get onto the big boy software at some point. Don't judge me too harshly. Next question for Bloods: which is better for a guitar pick frame, the NJ canopy or the Bloods canopy? Who put this question in here? Should have read that before. I wouldn't have answered it. Oh dear, here we go. Fight.
It's obviously the Bloods canopy, isn't it?
Oh, I'm not so sure. Your feed's getting very bad, Bloods. I might have to remove you. Hang on.
It's the NJ canopy. The NJ canopy.
Yeah. Oh, it's all good again. Brilliant. Okay.
Well, they're both.
Moving on.
Technically, I designed them both, so they're both as good as each other.
This is true. I just barked at you and said, change this. Yeah, very. They're both sort of for different purposes, I guess. We both like certain things in terms of antenna holders and placement, and we're both, very vain about what we want it to look like. So we sort of both had our opportunity with that. But I see what you did there, person who wrote questions. Is there more interest for freestyle or racing style frames? And I guess once you give me that opinion, I think obviously Greg could also weigh in on that as well. How have you found that in terms of your sales?
Yeah, it's a funny one, really. It's hard to answer as well, because for the first 2 years I didn't even sell a race frame. So it's only the last year and a half that I've actually been selling both. But over that time, it's probably 50-50, really. It really is.
That's good to hear. I'm glad one isn't that way and the other.
Definitely not. I've got more variation of race frames than freestyle frames. I've got 2 freestyle frames and 3 race frames. So I guess I sell more race frames maybe because of that. So, but no, I'd say it's pretty much 50-50. I definitely haven't seen a trend. And
Greg, what about you? Because you've got a couple of different frames of yours, haven't you? Have you noticed any trend in particular?
It's not a clear trend. I mean, frames aren't our core business. We kind of do them as a support, and I quite enjoy designing them myself. But I would say the race frames for us, we sell more race frames than freestyle. But, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Maybe it is that has the edge, and maybe I guess some of that. The other thing with people getting into it, many of us suggest a good place to start is the simulator, and obviously people who are in the simulator, I always said this, even back to flying RC helicopters, is the one thing you haven't got is the fear factor. You know, your wallet doesn't start quivering when you're flying in the simulator that you might break or lose something. So you tend to find people starting the sim can very quickly get into the racing, and obviously there's a lot of you know, tracks now, lots of tracks that have gone into all the sims.
Anything on TV is always race based as well. So if you've seen it on TV and you're coming to it from that, you're going to be looking at race drones. It's more expensive to fly freestyle because you've got to put a GoPro on top. So, you know, first timers, a race frame, even if you're not actually racing with it, probably do sell more race frames.
Yeah, actually,
let me just get my books up a second and give you a breakdown.
I say we'll have to do this again, do a real technical deep dive, and just and really go for it. So for Bloods, the last question I needed to get to you: have you ever been sim racing? If not, why not? To an event?
Not really. I've played it a bit. I do it a bit. It was really weird over the lockdown. I thought I'd be on it quite a lot, but I really didn't. It's the longest time I've not picked up my transmitter the whole time I've been flying. I went 8 whole weeks without even picking it up. But yeah, do a bit of sim racing here and there. It's just I fly in real life. I fly better in real life than I do in the simulator. It doesn't. You can't beat the real thing. The noise, the fresh air, meeting up with your mates, and you know, the Sims all right, but yeah, you can't beat the real thing. I'm with Greg on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's fairly unanimous in opinion. I think we're all gonna agree on that.
Yeah.
Especially with all this wonderful weather now gracing us, that we're itching to get out and fly. And
totally, yeah.
Dear, oh dear. Okay, great stuff. So I think what I might do now, as we have the chance to do so, I may bring in. We have Ali Barrett, I think, backstage in our online green room. I love the fact that we have an online green room where I can see everyone's faces all eagerly waiting to jump in. I think I'm going to pull Ali in. So, Ali, are you there? Sorry, I pulled you in a couple of minutes early.
Hey there. No, that's cool. I've been waiting.
Excellent.
How's everyone?
See you back there. Everyone's good. Yeah, and for our viewers, please introduce yourself. Tell us what it is you do.
I'm Ali Barrett, and I kind of host a lot of online Velocidrone races. So we're holding today in memory of the Popham team event that was supposed to go on today. We're going to have a team event in Velocidrone. So I've built up the track from Popham Drone Zone. So it's like a 1-to-1 replica of Popham. And we got 9 teams competing, 4 people in a team, and all from the UK today. So we got a full UK race in Velocidrone, which
fantastic.
I think is the first time we've ever had a full UK event. So I'm quite excited for it.
Yeah, that's good, man. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, we're going to let the Brits fight it out. Let's see what happens. Fantastic. So I've got a few questions for you, Ali. First one being, how does sim racing differ from mini quad racing, essentially?
So I think you kind of brought it up before, is there's no fear factor. So you can go out, you can crash as many times as you want, and it doesn't do any damage. That's a big thing. So people can get very fast pretty quickly in the sim. But it's definitely a good way to learn. It's a good way to practice and be able to kind of get those key skills that you need to race. But I think the biggest advantage of it is you can be practicing with other people, so actually racing against people. If you're only racing actual people, you could be practicing every day of the week, but if you're not racing exactly against other people around you, you don't get those nerves. And the nerves are just as big, if not bigger, in the sim than they are in real life. And I think
that's a really good point. While you're very quickly on that point, is a good friend of mine. I'm not dropping names here, but a very, very good friend of mine is Thomas and Paul Bitmarta, and that was one thing I've always asked them whenever I've spoke to them is, how do you control your adrenaline? Because adrenaline will literally wreck your entire body, right? As any of us who've had a go at racing know that you're sat in the chair and your hands are shaking and you're like, what's going on with my body?
Yeah.
So I guess there is an element of that very much comes into it that's taken from the real world when you're actually against other people.
I would actually say there's more nerves in sim racing than there is in real life racing, because
Oh, really?
Because you can be on top of each other and not crash because you don't have collisions turned on. So you can have a whole quad like in your face blocking your view. So you don't. Yeah, I think it's worse.
Right.
And especially because the type of races I run is spec race, so we're all on exactly the same quads, exactly the same setup. So it's all about who's flying the best lines instead of who's got the fastest quad. So it makes for a lot tighter racing in an event.
Yeah, it always makes me... the thing that I find interesting is when you look at the stick view, the amount of times you'll just see that throttle just pegged at the top. Because when you watch live racing, you don't always get that cam of what people are doing with their hands. But it's always quite interesting to see how some people get around the track with the reactions they do.
But it's still... Even though these guys are pinning the throttle, the guys at the top of all the leaderboards are getting every gate by a millimeter. There's not an inch to spare. So people say, oh, you can't do that in real life. But if you watch some of the top guys in real life, they are doing that. Absolutely. But I think a lot of it is because quite a lot of the tracks you'd see in Velocidrone are quite big, a lot bigger than you would be flying in real life. So the scale is big. And that's the big thing that makes it feel real or not real. Is the scale of the track. Because it's very easy to make a track that's too small or a track that's absolutely massive. And because you don't know the reference of it, one track can feel like your quad's going really slow, and then you go on a track that's kind of shrunk down and it feels like you've got the most powerful quad in the world. So it's very important getting the scale of the track right.
That makes a lot of sense. How long have you been running the virtual races for?
So I started doing it I think it was back in October, because I was like, it's winter's coming up. We'd just been kicked out our local car park that we used to fly in all winter. And I was like, I need to do something that will make me fly more over winter. And I normally get on the sim, I do it a bit, and then I'm like, I can't be bothered with this. So I was like, if I start hosting events, it will make me fly the sim more. Which hopefully by the time it gets around to the end of winter, I won't have lost those skills that I had
lost your edge
after the whole summer. Yeah. So we kind of started off with quite small events. So we're kind of like 15, 20 people. And it's just grown and grown and grown in the last few months. And we run weekly events for the EU. And I'm getting 50 to 100 on a Thursday night every week.
I just love stories like this. I love stories like this where you just kind of come up with an idea to try and keep yourself motivated to do something, and then accidentally end up with something enormously popular. That's fantastic. I love that. Final question was: it seems to be quite popular. Is there a league?
Yeah, so I run a league on a Thursday night. It's called EU Spec Racing. So it's EU just because it's kind of our time zone. So kind of we do qualifying starts at 6 o'clock, and then mains and live stream starts at 7 o'clock on a Thursday. So that's every week. And the best way to get involved in that is to join the Velocidrone community Facebook group. All the events are kind of listed in that group and also on the homepage of the sim. And yeah, just click going on one of the events and fill in a sign-up form, and you're good to go.
And off you go.
Really easy. There's so many events going on in Velocidrone at the moment. I think this whole lockdown period's really boosted the community because people have got nothing else to do. So there's these little leagues popping up all over the place, and yeah, I just happened to get in there before most of them, which is good.
Which is good. Yes, yeah, you're there, ready and waiting. Say again, Greg?
Can I ask Ali a question?
You certainly can. Yeah, we're good for time.
Yeah. In Velocidrome, when you're running the races, do you limit it to maximum 8 pilots, or can you go up to 16 or 20 in a race?
So in one race, there's a maximum of 7 pilots. That's kind of the limit Ash, who runs Velocidrone, put on so the race manager doesn't get too much lag, because the race manager's got to take a timing from every quad going through every gate, so it knows, and it's always pinging back and forward. And the more quads you put in, the more it's going to lag on the race manager's computer. So that's the limit that's on it at the moment.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
One thing I'd be interested to know as well, if I was just coming into this and because all of these areas of our hobby, I think we can associate the word intimidating in one form or another, whether you're getting into the technical side with learning beta flight or whatever it is. If you're coming into Velocidrone and you want to start racing, is there a sort of beginner friendly way to do this where you just don't end up in a race with the current EU champion and end up crying and throwing your controller through your computer screen?
Yeah, so there's actually a new mode in Velocidrone that got introduced a couple of weeks back called Nemesis mode. So if you set that, it's like you're online racing, but it's offline. So if you've never flown a track, you'll go in and it will load up the slowest time on that track, and you'll be flying against their quad. And then you'll run your race, it'll upload your time, and then it'll download the two quads above you and the 2 quads below you. So you're racing 4 quads, 2 faster, 2 slower. So then you can race them and try and beat them.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. It keeps you motivated.
Yeah, exactly. And you can always have like a race with people. So whereas before you had to go into like a multiplayer lobby, you can now do it all offline, and it's just pulling people's data in and you're racing real people, it's really cool. And you can also view their flight. So if someone's like keeps getting in front of you, you can look at their lines and see how they're getting quicker.
That's absolutely brilliant. Well, that's an absolutely great selling point for people who are getting in. I love the idea of that system. Absolutely brilliant.
So I think in like 3 weeks, there's 27,000 Nemesis flights uploaded onto the server.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's some crazy numbers. How fantastic. Oh, well, that's something maybe even I would consider then. Maybe I need to start trying a little bit of racing.
Definitely worth it.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's bring in Paul. I think now Paul Jaggers. Where is he? Let me grab him in. Hello, Paul. How are you?
I'm good, guys. Hi.
Hey, Paul.
Enjoying watching.
Hey. Would I be able to drop out because I've got to start my qualifying in 5 minutes?
Is that all right? Of course you can.
Thanks very much.
Good luck.
Cheers for having me on. Cheers.
Have a good one, mate.
Okay, Paul. How are you? How is everything going? Are you under a lot of stress right now, or is everything looking good? You look quite chilled.
Good. It's been busy. It's been busy last couple of days. Getting the pilots ready for this afternoon for 5 o'clock. I've had a little chat with them on Discord, and I've got one pilot who's like called me on hands free. He's like, I'm just driving home, mate. I'm gonna be walking through the door at 5 o'clock. Is there any chance you can hold on for like 30 seconds? I'll be there. So I was like, look, guys, I am streaming, so you've got to be as quick as you can. He's like, I'm trying next traffic light, so I'll be logging into Google to make sure I'm registered for the event and stuff. I was like, oh my word. But everyone else
sounds like that's a standard race, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all this sounds fairly familiar to me. Paul, just for the benefit of the viewers, people logging on, maybe some of my subscribers, please just tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. So, as Neil, as you've introduced me, I'm Paul, and I run Indoor Drone Racing UK. There's a Facebook group that's called Indoor Drone Racing London, as I'm based in London, and I run 2 events a week normally when we're not in lockdown / pandemic. So normally they're Tuesday and Thursday nights, and it's really like good group of friends just come and have like chat and fly, and I run monthly competitions and get a couple of prizes in and things like that. And it's been brilliant. It's been really good just to really try and like involve the community and get people going. And obviously, now we can't do that. I was like, I'm missing the racing. Everyone's like, Paul, I missed the racing, but can't wait for us to go out flying again. I was like, hang on, let's do some online stuff. So it's the only reason really we're streaming, and and run in the simulators, because everyone's like getting that urge to want to do stuff. So
Yeah, it's like the
that's
weather.
it.
It's like coming out of hibernation, right? The weather's triggering people, and suddenly it's this thing of I need to start doing something. So I think
Absolutely.
the Sims are getting people through it while they're furiously
Yeah.
soldering their real quads and preparing them for the good weather. I've got some quick fire questions for you, Jaggers, if that's all right, before we hand things over to the racing itself. How long have you been running racing, and what made you want to start?
Well, actually, my chat's very similar to Ali Barrett. So it's that we were flying through the summer. I'd always flown track actually, and like racing, and that's how I sort of got into it with 5-inch drones. And then it was getting cold and winter was drawing in, and we couldn't fly as much. So I was like, spoke to my mates who I regularly flew with, and said, "Well, let's see if we could find an indoor place to start doing it." And then, lo and behold, we set up. Did one night it was like 5 of us. The next week there was 6 and 7, and then all of a sudden there was like 20 people turning up to an event. People were traveling 2-3 hours to come fly with us, and we're having pro pilots and stuff, and YouTubers come down, and we're like, wow, what the hell? So then I started a second club in central London as well. So it's just grown and grown, and it's been fantastic.
Just accidentally grew to the size it was. Sorry, just very quickly. I think Greg, you've got to run, right? I think I'm picking up from the messages. Thank you so much for joining us. It's all good. You can disappear, and we'll see you again very soon, hopefully.
Thank you for having us on the show. See you
No
later.
problem. Take care.
See you, Greg.
So where were we? Let's try and get through a couple more of these quickly for you. How does sim racing differ from whoop racing?
Well, whoops there's a very like more gradual when you crash, and they don't flip out as such, and they at the moment they're all brushed actually on Tiny Whoop Go until they release like a brushless version. But it's a bit more, the environments are more like indoorsy than the big outdoor stuff. Velocidrone feels a bit more slower pace as well. But as you'll see in a couple of minutes when it starts kicking off, the guys are full throttle and going as hard as they can. Absolutely. They're really
fully looking forward to that. And then quickly, what is today's prize? Just for people who are obviously, hopefully everyone here is going over to watch.
So today I've got a Beta FPV 75mm drone. And
lovely.
Actually, Beta support sponsor a few of the different events, and this one's from something previous, but it's I'm putting it out there for a good prize to be won. So yeah, that will be suitable for some of the larger indoor tracks for events, or even take it apart, strip out, and build a toothpick or something, and happy days.
Fantastic. Right. Well, I think we're almost there on the button. Yeah. So where are people going from now, Paul? Where are they heading off to?
I think it's all going to be on to the miniairshow.co.uk website to continue viewing. That's where you should be picking up from. You could also check out on my YouTube page, which is just Paul Jaggers. I don't normally stream much to there. I don't really have any followers, but you're welcome to join over. And yeah, that's... Oh, there's also the Facebook group, the Facebook page, which is Indoor Drone Racing UK. You can find it there as well, streamed.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, well, I think that just about wraps it up. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in, everyone that's made it along for our online mini air show 6, so this little segment with me, NJ. Thank you very much to Greg, obviously, who had to run, to Ali, to Paul, and to Bloods for spending some time with us. And yeah, it's going to continue on, so let's go continue follow, and we'll hopefully get to see you all very soon. Thanks for joining. Take care for now.